back to Bourbon on the Brain, and today we're going to have a conversation. Now, a lot of my videos are typically scripted, or I have talking points written down that I want to go over. This one's a little bit off the cuff. So if you don't know, I just got back from a trip to Iowa. My sister lives there along with my godparents, and my godsister just got engaged, so it was cool seeing the rest of my family and spending some time with them. And my godfather bought me a bottle of bourbon to have while I was there. And he said something that kind of got me thinking. He said that he went to the liquor store and asked the guy what he thought the best bourbon was for his budget. And he came home with a bottle of 1870 from Old Forester. Now, here's what got me thinking. He asked the guy what he thought the best bourbon was for the price. Now, something that I think is really important to note about all of this is that bourbon is all about personal preferences. So, like for me, we have two bottles here. One's Whistle Pig, and one is Pinhook. This is their 4-year from their Vertical series. It's important to make a distinction of what kind of tastes you like when you're trying to figure out what bourbon you like. And what I mean by that is there's so many different things that qualify for taste, whether it's the actual tasting notes themselves, whether it's you like the vanilla, the caramel, the butterscotch, the stone fruit, the floral, whatever, versus whether or not you like high proof or low proof, or you really like that oaky barrel feel. You know, there's so many different things to qualify, and it's kind of interesting because my dad likes to compare it to tasting wine because he's a really big wine drinker. And I don't know necessarily if I would compare it to tasting wine, but I guess in a certain sense of like there's so many different varieties of wine, whether it's calves, I don't know a lot of wines, but you kind of get the gist of what I'm saying. There's just so many different varieties, and when he brought home the bourbon, he said, I think you'll like this. Give it a try." And unbeknownst to him, not only do I have the bottle, I've tried it many times, and I do like it. I think it's a good bourbon. But what made this story so interesting is a few months ago, my godbrother graduated from college, and he asked what bottle he wanted to get as a little graduation gift for him to drink at the dinner. And he gave me a budget, and based off of his budget and what was at the market, my recommendation was the Woodford Double Oaked. Now, if you've had the Woodford Double Oaked, you know it is a fantastic bourbon, and an even better bourbon when you consider the price that it's usually at. It's usually about a $40 bourbon, and it drinks much higher than that. So he came back saying this is going to kick the Woodford Oak's butt. And my answer was a resounding no, it will most certainly not. And his response was, well, the guy at the liquor store said it would. And it made me think, because it's subject to interpretation. Me personally, I think the Woodford is one of the best bang for your bucks on the market. I think that the Old Forester 1910 is one of the best bangs for your buck on the market. That's not to say the 1870 isn't a good quality bourbon. It is, and it's enjoyable. And at its $50, I think $55 price point, it's still a very good bourbon for the price. But it's all a matter of opinion. And this is what I tried to explain to him through less concise wording, because when he and I talk, it's usually a little bit more confrontational, not in a bad way, more in a loving father figure, son figure kind of way. But it's sometimes hard to articulate why something is better than something else if you're not well versed in the tasting notes, the proofing, the mash bill, all of those things. And then it really also just boils down to opinion. I like this better, it tastes better. I like that better, it tastes better. And that's one of the things that I really love about bourbon, is that you can have somebody that tries a $500 bourbon and say, well, you know, I like this $30 bourbon better. And you can have somebody that has exquisite taste and only likes the really high-end stuff and hates the low-end stuff. Me personally, price doesn't matter to me. I can't afford the high-end stuff anyway, but the few times that I have been able to try the high-end stuff, I find it to be very good. And there's a reason why it's priced the way it is. But what's really interesting about the bourbon world is, for the most part, there is no such thing as a high-priced bourbon. There are your exceptions. There's the Eagle Rare 25. There's the new Weller, was it Millennial, Bicentennial, whatever just got announced a couple of days ago. That's going for $7,500. But for the most part, your really expensive bourbons are aftermarket markups. I mean, if you look at the MSRPs for the Buffalo Trace Antique series, they're all about $150. That is more than reasonable for a bottle of bourbon that has the age statements that they do and the history that they do. I mean, even the Pappies, if you go onto their website and look at what the MSRPs are, I think like the cheapest Pappy is like $45. I digress. My point being that there's not really such thing as an expensive bourbon in the bourbon world. You look at Scotch, and I mean, you can see 25, 30, 40-year age statements on those, and those are going to, be absolutely ridiculous. Bourbon is just different. And so you start to realize that what separates the bourbons isn't necessarily the price. It's the taste. And by taste, I mean what you think you like. Because you go to a bar and you order a $30 drink, or you order a $70 drink, it's bourbon. At the end of the day, you have to figure out what you like, and price doesn't matter, because apples to apples are probably not that far off in terms of price at MSRP. And I think that's the important thing to remember, is that you have to find what you like and what tastes good to you. And from there, then you can figure out if it's worth it to you to spend that amount of money. Because again, third-party pricing makes things so much more complicated. In an ideal world, everything would be around the same price. You wouldn't be spending more than $100 on a bottle of bourbon. Unfortunately, that's not the world that we live in anymore. Even something like, Bardstown, their Discovery Series number 11 is $150. And actually, they just released a new collaboration. I don't remember the exact collaboration, but I know it's like Indian whiskey barrels, and that looks pretty good. But that's $160, $159, maybe it's $169. But either way, that's kind of my point. Is that should be the high end of what an MSRP is, and you shouldn't see markups from there. When the Discovery Series number 11 came out, it was $159 or $149 depending on where you got. And that was pretty much it. You were getting it for that amount of money if you looked in the right place. I got mine third party and paid $159 for it. You weren't really seeing significant markups. And that's the way it should be. If you're going to price something at that amount of money and you value your product at that amount of money, which some places do, and deservingly so, Discovery Series number 11 is absolutely worth $159. There shouldn't be a third-party markup on it, and I get it, trying to make money, you're selling third-party, resellers, all that kind of stuff. And it's the same with every sales market. I mean, look at sneakers. The sneaker market is ridiculous. But for a consumable product, it's harder. And the important thing to realize in all of this is you don't need to spend a ridiculous amount of money to find something that you like. And I've kind of gone back and forth around my points, but the point that I'm trying to make here is bottle of Pinhook, right? I go on my auction sites, I look around, I wanted to collect all the series 4 through 8 of the vertical series. So I have all of their vertical series releases. Pinhook, while they sell directly to consumer, does not have all of their releases still available. So I had to go third party. So my first look was auctions, because usually I can get a pretty good deal at auctions. The auctions were either they didn't have it or they were overpriced. So you start looking at some of the third party liquor websites. Same thing. Either they didn't have it or significantly overpriced. And then I kind of stumbled across a different website that I had ordered from before and I'd kind of forgotten about, and sure enough, they had it. It was slightly over MSRP, but still palatable. There was nothing over $100. And these, I believe, were $80, $90 MSRP, somewhere in that ballpark. They're all barrel proof, so you know they're going to be a little bit more expensive than the average bourbon. Plus, they're part of a limited release. Again, makes it a little bit more expensive. But I was okay spending a little bit more than MSRP to get a hold of these because I really enjoy them. And I'm going to be doing full review series on these as they progress based off of the story. So for me, I had no problem doing it. But somebody like my dad, who doesn't care about that kind of stuff beyond what I tell him, he really enjoys Pinhook. You go to a market and look for this, you're not going to find it because it's about 4 years old. You're not going to find these releases anymore. But if you really like this bottle, once we open it and taste it, you're not going to be able to find it very easily. You're going to have to go third party. And the fact that you can get this for relatively cheap compared to some of the other third party markups that I saw is a big deal for people that find something that they like that's not readily on the market anymore. And I think that's sort of the key here, is that unlike, let's say, the sneaker market, where if they produce a release that's really popular, you can just go back and make more. Bourbon is different. Limited releases don't get made anymore. Those mash bills don't get made anymore. That batch of grain doesn't exist anymore. And so those exact flavor profiles are not going to exist in the bottle that's made anymore. And that's one of the reasons why third-party markups, for me, are so difficult to palate. Again, I digress. The point of this was to talk about your specific tastes and what you enjoy, and to make sure that you find that. Because that's the most important thing. People don't drink bourbon for stature. I mean, I guess if you go to a bar and you want to impress a girl by drinking a glass of bourbon, maybe. But people that are drinking bourbon, for the most part, are doing it because they enjoy it. And it's sort of a harsh thing to enjoy. You have to develop a taste for it. Unlike wine, where people can just drink it, this is a more powerful drink. And so you really want to find something that you enjoy. And my point through all of this is make sure you find what you enjoy. Take the time, really look for it, try some different things, experiment a little bit. Message me if you have questions. I'm more than happy to help. And really just go for it, because that's the most important thing. So one other thing to add, I'm doing this at the end so it doesn't seem so much like a plug, but if you go to my website, bourbon-on-the-brain.com, link in my description. I just went live with a tasting service where basically I'm putting together, you can select different options, the amount of bottles that you want, your price per bottle, how much your budget is, and I'll put together a tasting set for you if you want to have like a party or some friends over or corporate events, whatever the case might be. I'll put together tastings for you. Now, there's companies out there that do this. They charge you an arm and a leg for it. For me, it's really just about the enjoyment of the bourbon itself. And for all of this, I'll send you my recommendations of where you can get the bourbon from, whether it be third-party websites. I'll find the best prices that I can and send you all of that information as well. I'm just one guy. I don't buy the bourbon myself for all of y'all. Maybe one day we'll get to that point. If I'm doing it in person, that's different. If I'm providing that service in person, I will find the bourbon and bring it. Of course, that's extra. But that's sort of my self-plug, something that I'm doing. It was actually my sister's idea, and I think it's a really good idea. We've had some really good success so far with it. And the inspiration was from the Cheese of the Month Club that my dad used to get. So, with that being said, that's my little self-plug. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'm more than happy to answer questions. This for me is really just a passion. I really enjoy all of this, and that's what I'm here for. I'm here to educate. So, as always, enjoy, drink safely, and we'll catch you next time. Bye for now.